beds. No one could collect as much dust, straw and sand as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was the top cleaner. He set the standard. And soon, after all the sweeping was done and all the straw was collected and the sand and the dust, soon there was 100 men standing there with water pots, filled with water, simply waiting for the Lord's order to throw the water. And soon Lord Chaitanya called for the water. Bring the water. First they washed the main temple, and they washed the ceilings, and they washed the walls, and they washed the floor. They also washed Lord Jagannath's sitting place. And while they were doing the washing, some water actually fell from Lord Chaitanya's lotus feet, and one devotee caught that water and drank that water. Someone else begged for that water. Another person was given that water in charity, a special water from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lotus feet. So then all the water was let out through the outlets in the temple. And Lord Chaitanya mopped all the rooms with his own cloth. He took his chadar off and he was mopping up the water in the temple, bringing it out. And then with his own cloth, he polished the throne of Lord Jagannath. And soon the whole temple was just like cleaned, purified, cool and pleasing. So during that cleaning, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw someone doing nicely, when he was working hard, doing really making a sincere effort, Lord Chaitanya praised him. But if someone was not working to his satisfaction, immediately he chastised that person, not bearing any grudge. And they also washed the area where the food was kept, the kitchen, the entire yard, raised sitting places, every other room in the Gundica temple. They cleaned it all spotlessly. And everything was just thoroughly washed. One Vaishnava, he came and he poured water on Lord Chaitanya's lotus feet and then drank that water. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was not happy. He called to Prabhu Gundica, his secretary. Lord Chaitanya told him, just see the behavior of this devotee. He has washed my feet within the temple of Lord Jagannath. And not only that, he has also drunk that water. I do not know what the reaction will occur for this. Because of this offense, indeed, this devotee has greatly implicated me. So this way, Lord Chaitanya was angry externally in order to establish the proper etiquette. When you're worshipping the deities, one must follow strict rules and regulations in regarding temple worship. So, outside the gateway of the temple, and all the roads leading up to the temple, they even cleaned those. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's the world teacher, is teaching us, by this pastime, how one should receive, if one wants to receive Lord Krishna in one's heart, then the heart has to be cleansed and purified. If one wants to see Krishna, if one wants to really re-establish one's loving relationship with Krishna, if he wants to really please Krishna and allow Krishna to reveal himself personally to you, then one must first cleanse the heart. Especially, as I said, in this age of Kali, everyone's heart is very unclean. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya especially recommends this chanting of this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And hear the glories, hearing the transcendental glories of the Lord. This will really purify the heart. Therefore the devotee has to cleanse his heart, just as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cleaned the Gundica temples. Very thoroughly. In this way one can be pacified and enriched in devotional service. If the heart is filled with straw and dirt and sand, such as lust and greed and envy and pride, one cannot enthrone the Lord in one's heart. The heart must be cleansed of all material motives, such as the desire for material opulence and enjoyment and personal liberation, the desire to become one with the Lord, the desire for name and fame and high position, all these things. Pride and envy, lust, duplicity, all these things must be cleaned out of the heart. But also, even though the heart may be cleansed, sometimes what happens is subtle desires again. They come into being within the heart. So Lord Chaitanya recommends one must be continuously cleansing the heart for one's whole lifetime. Through hearing and chanting, serving the deities, eating prasadam. So just to teach us that, that the heart, it must be an ongoing process of cleansing the heart. Lord Chaitanya, even after cleaning the whole temple and everything, and all the rooms and kitchen and eating areas and roads, they went in and cleaned it a second time. With all the brooms and the water. But this time, they cleaned it even more thoroughly with firm conviction. So, Lord Chaitanya is teaching us, similarly we must really endeavour with patience, enthusiasm, determination to throw out all the stumbling blocks on the path of devotional service. So this is what we learn in Bhakti Yoga, or Krishna consciousness. We learn the importance of purifying and refining our consciousness. We've got to purify and refine the consciousness, and as much as possible, freeing ourselves from all the negative influences that pervade this modern world. This is an important stepping stone, it is said, in reclaiming our real freedom. So we can live in our sacred space, free from all material consciousness, and awaken fully and nourish our spiritual love and devotion, which we can pass on to others in our preaching. However, as Lord Chaitanya is teaching us by the second cleaning, if we're not careful, what happens? Even while we're following the process of Krishna consciousness, sometimes the mind, the intelligence, the senses, the ego can bewilder us. Put us in illusion, make us think that this material world and ourselves are separate from the Lord. And the ultimate goal of life is simply to enjoy this body and enjoy this world independently. So it is said that this bewilderment and this illusion and covering of the consciousness has been going on for so many lifetimes, maybe even thousands of lifetimes. So taking up a genuine spiritual path means trying to purify the consciousness so we can transform our perceptions and attitudes and fully understand the purpose behind this wonderful creation. So on one hand, we have to be very practical about techniques for keeping ourselves pure, for keeping the consciousness pure, for keeping the mind and intelligence. We have to be very practical about our chant, taking up this, sincerely chanting our rounds, associating with devotees, only eating prasadam, associating with devotees, reading these sacred literatures, and according to our capacity, trying to sacrifice our time and energy and wealth, whatever we have, resources in Krishna service. But on the other hand, we have to be humble. We have to be humble and understand that this material contamination is an ever-present reality. Then we have to learn to cope with it, use our brains to rise above it, use our intelligence. It is said that every day, we're at war. We're at war with Maya. This very powerful, deluding material energy. And this Maya, she's like a very clever thief. She's going to try and steal away our most valuable asset, our Krishna consciousness. However, if we take full shelter of Krishna, in Krishna consciousness, ultimately we will be victorious. It's just like in the battle, we know Arjuna, he was on the chariot. And who was sitting on the chariot next to him? It's Krishna. So the body is like a chariot. And Krishna, where is he? He's sitting in our heart, so close. So if we take full share of Krishna and Krishna consciousness, ultimately we always be victorious. But it is said, Krishna surely helps those who help themselves. And he'll never help us. I mean, we cannot succeed without Krishna's mercy. But still, we have to show a sincere effort in our devotional service. It's not as if the mercy does everything and we do nothing. We have to make some sincere effort. And Krishna he'll only really help us to the degree that we're willing to take shelter of him. To the degree we're willing to take shelter of this whole process of Krishna consciousness under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. So as a spiritual master, he teaches us we have to learn this great art and science how to take shelter of Krishna. So this cleaning of the Gundica temple was conducted by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to let us know how the heart should be cleansed and soothed to receive Krishna in the heart. We want to place Krishna on the throne within our hearts and they just enable him to just sit there without any disturbance. Lord Chaitanya also, at this time, he cleaned the Nrsimha temple, which is situated just near the Gundica temple. And after cleaning that temple and all the other cleaning, there was a lot of cleaning. They cleaned the whole Gundica temple, they cleaned the roads, the rooms, and they did it twice. Then Lord Chaitanya, he took rest for a short time. And all the devotees, he took a little rest. And then Lord Chaitanya, when he got up, he got all the devotees up, and they began this big kirtan, chanting. And actually it said that Lord Chaitanya was dancing like a mad lion, surrounded by all the devotees. And the Lord, he was going into his ecstatic symptoms, he was trembling and perspiring and roaring with jubilation, and tears were just like shooting out of his eyes. Out of his lotus eyes and just drenching all the devotees present. And he said, that the earth was shaking due to his ecstatic jumping and dancing. So they had this big kirtan and they're all chanting and dancing and jumping, and then after some time Lord Chaitanya, he stopped the kirtan. Then all the devotees took some more rest. Then they bathed in a nearby lake. And after that they all went to this beautiful garden in the Gundica temple, And they all sat down there under the shade of the trees. And soon, Kashi Mishra, the superintendent of the Gundica Temple, he came there, and he brought this huge feast of rice and vegetable breads and savories and sweets, and it was this huge feast. You know, I lived in Mayapur for 6 months, and I know especially in Bengal, they really know how to cook it up. Yeah. You know, something. They had this huge feast, and Lord Chaitanya, when he saw the feast, he was so satisfied. And Lord Chaitanya, because he's the Supreme Lord, he knows everything that everyone likes, what types of preparation each person likes. Therefore, he had Swarup Damodar deliver everyone's favourite preparations to each devotee to their full satisfaction. Sometimes, you know, Krishna also, we hear that, you know, when after they milk the cows in the morning, they used to go to the Nanda Maharaj's royal dining hall. And Radharani, she used to come down to Nandagram and cook a big feast for Krishna every morning. You know, that was arranged by Mother Yasoda, because, you know, she got that benediction to Vasamuni that whatever she cooked would taste like nectar, and anyone who eats that food will have a long life, fame, beauty, strength, which would go on increasing day by day. So when Mother Yasoda heard that, she arranged that Radharani every day she'd come down and cook for Krishna. So Krishna would be sitting there, surrounded by all these Garo boyfriends for this big feast, for breakfast feast. And then it said, you know, when Mother Yasoda wasn't looking, you know, Krishna, he also, just like Lord Chaitanya, he knows all his friends' favourite food. So when Mother Yasoda wasn't looking, he'd get some of that food, like a ladle, he'd chuck to Madamangala. Chuck a samosa for some other devotee. You have to make sure that Mother Yasoda wasn't watching her. You get in trouble. Yeah, so Lord Chaitanya, he knew the favourite preparations of all the devotees, and he got Swarup Damodar, his secretary, to deliver that food to each of the devotees. And then Lord Chaitanya said, you can just give me some ordinary mixed vegetable, some green vegetables. You know, Lord Chaitanya's favourite food was shalak, you know, the spinach vegetable. He said, you just give me some simple vegetable, and you can make deliver the rest of the devotees. However, when that opulent Jagannath Vishadam came, if you've ever been to Jagannath Puri, you know the Jagannath Vishadam, it's like, wow. You know, we had that Jagannath Vishadam when we went there. It comes in the pots and it's all cooked with pure ghee, but there's something just unbelievable about this Vishadam. It's just like, it tastes like nectar. And they brought all this Vishadam, and this Jagannath Vishadam came. You know, this opulent Vishadam. Sometimes the devotees, either by trick or by force, they would put it on Lord Chaitanya's plate. And Lord Chaitanya just accepted it out of affection for his devotees. So after they took lunch, then they all stood up again. And they had a big guitar, everyone's chanting and dancing, and he said that it was so tumultuous that the sound, it filled the upper and lower planetary systems. The whole universe was just reverberating with the chanting. So after this, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you know, out of appreciation for all the devotees that helped clean the Gundica Temple, he offered them beautiful flower garlands and sandalwood pulp. You know, he put the sandalwood pulp on them and cooled them down in the hot, very hot and Gundica Puri this time. Sometimes you see them there in Jagannath Puri during the Rath Yatra festival. They have these big hoses and they just hose people, keep them cool and down, keep them cool. So of course the next day, after the cleaning of the Gundica temple, Jagannath, Baladev and Subhadra, they after their 15-day in seclusion, they recuperated from their cold and their fever. And this day is called Nava. It's the day of fresh youthfulness. And they dress in their finest robes and ornaments one day before Rath Yatra. And actually when you read about Jagannath Puri, different devotees have different moods in Jagannath Puri. Some people worship Jagannath as that cowherd boy of Krishna in Vrindavan. It's a 7 to 10-year-old, that's the eternal, youthful form of Krishna in Vrindavan. Sometimes they dress Jagannath just with simple yellow dhoti and a flute and flowers and like that in Vrindavan style. But sometimes they dress him like some people, they worship Jagannath in the mood of awe and reverence, like in Vaikuntha. And they dress him in these great, actually they said that there's one dress there that they dress Jagannath in, and it weighs 1 ton of pure gold it's made from. Imagine that. And so he's dressed, he's just come out of and of course he's been repainted. The day is Nava Yovana, the day of fresh youthfulness. He's dressed in his finest robes and ornaments one day before Rath Yatra. And, during those 15 days of seclusion, everyone's so unhappy. Because everyone loves Jagannath so much. And, they couldn't wait to see their beloved Lord. And, Jagannath Puri, it's an amazing place actually, because there's like 30,000 people there involved in the worship of Jagannath. It's like a whole community of the 30,000 devotees who from the time they're born, they invite this devotion to Jagannath, and there's different families. Some families carry on these family traditions for generations. Some families are growing flowers for Jagannath's garden. Some families are milking cows to deliver milk to the temple. Other families are growing vegetables for the cooking of the offerings. Some families are carpenters that build the carts each year or paint the deities. And some of them are involved in administration, security, cooking. There's like 5,000. They had like 165 burners going, and it's like something like it's like 5,000 cooks. They're not all cooks. Some of them, there's like a couple of thousand head chefs, and there's all these helpers, and they feed like 10,000 people a day. On festival days, they feed 30,000 people. And so it's like this whole, community of devotees. They think that they just love the Jagannath. It's just so great. And they were so unhappy. For 2 days they couldn't see their beloved Lord. And so just, when now Lord Jagannath emerged on the day of fresh youthfulness, and they're upon seeing him, they were once ecstatic. And of course, the next morning before Rath Yatra, Lord Chaitanya, he takes all these intimate devotees, and they go to the temple to see this. It's a special ceremony they have when Jagannath comes from the temple. He's put on the car. They mount their chariots. And said, that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's just so thirsty to see Lord Jagannath. They said his eyes were like two humming bumblebees, drinking the honey from the Lord Jagannath's transcendental, beautiful form. And it is said, although the tears began flowing from Lord Chaitanya's lotus eyes, he checked those tears because he didn't want to disturb his seeing the beautiful face of Lord Jagannath. And they said, the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was so deeply absorbed in seeing his beloved Lord Jagannath that he just forgot everything. He just went into like a trance. Therefore, in Jagannath Puri it is said, that we find two crying forms of the Lord. There's two crying forms. The Lord Chaitanya, in the mood of Radharani, is crying for Krishna. And Lord Jagannath is Krishna, and he's crying for Radharani. So it is said, Lord Jagannath, when we see Lord Jagannath, we just see him in his beautiful wooden form. But we don't see him as the two-handed Shyama Sundara playing his flute with the peacock in his original transcendental form. But he reveals that form to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because he's in that mood of Radharani. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Gundica Marjanam ki Jai. Shri Prabhupada ki
Jai. His Grace Garuda Prabhu ki
Lord Jagannath Baladev Subhadra ki Jai. Okay.